What's up, Carptastic ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Fun Friday episode in this PTCGO series. Fun Friday is that day of the week where we take a look at fun, crazy or silly deck ideas. And today's deck is based around Miltank, but not just Miltank, also a whole bunch of other Pokemon. And I gotta say, it's actually a fairly interesting deck if I say so myself, but I'll let you judge that yourself in a moment here, because we are going to go over the deck in just a couple of seconds. If you want to skip the deck analysis, click the annotation on the top left of the screen and that will take you straight to the battles. Miltank has got 100 hit points and 2 attacks. The first one being Powerful Friends, as well as the focus of this deck. We won't be using the Hammering most likely. Powerful Friends hits for 10 damage plus 70 more if we've got a stage 2 in play, and only costs a single colorless energy. Now, the main strategy with this deck revolves around the Powerful Friends and about getting stage 2s on the bench to hit for 80 damage for just 1 energy. And the stage 2s of choice in this deck are Empoleon, Gallade and Garchomp. Now you may be thinking that's a lot of different kinds of stage 2s. So indeed it is, and for that reason we do not play the entire evolution lines, because that would make this deck way too clunky. Like you wouldn't believe how clunky it would be. Instead, we are going to go for a Maxis Archie's approach. We are going to get out the Empoleon, the Gallade and the Garchomp directly. We are getting out the Empoleon using Archie's Ace in Hole, and we are getting out Gallade and Garchomp using a Maxis Hidden Ball Trick. Now obviously you won't be getting out all of them in every single game. That's if you can get out 2, that's already very good, and there's actually no need to get out of all of them out, because depending on the matchup you will want to get out certain stage 2s and you will want to discard others and never use them. For example, if you are using, or if you are facing Manectric EX, you'll want to get out the Gallade here, because Gallade can hit for 60 plus 70 if you use a supporter. That's 130 times 2, because Manectric is fighting weak. That's 260, that's a knockout on even the Mega Manectric EX just for a colorless energy. And a very interesting fact is that no matter which stage 2 you get out, the Miltank will always be able to use the Powerful Friends and hit for a decent amount, helping you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's why the Miltank is at the core of this deck, because it works against every matchup. But which stage 2 you get out, that will depend on the exact matchup that you are having. Generally, the Empoleon is a good choice because it increases the Miltank's damage. But if you are facing EXs, for example, or a lot of EXs, it'd be better to get out the Garchomp, since the Garchomp can one-shot EXs with a Bite Off. You are doing 80 plus 80 more, that's 160. Slap on a Muscle Band, which we run 3 copies of, that's 180. That knocks out most EXs in the game in one shot. So 3 Muscle Bands and then 3 DCEs. The DCEs work very well with the Gallade, as well as the Shaymin, as well as the Miltank. And a fun fact is that the Shaymin might be used for attacking as well, with the Sky Return here. In the beginning it will be used for setup, but in certain games you can use it with the Sky Return, since the Sky Return does 30 plus 20 from the Muscle Band, and then if you have an Empoleon on the bench, it does 20 more because of the ability of Empoleon, which I didn't really discuss yet. Empoleon's ability increases the attack damage from basic Pokemon by 20 to the opponent's active Pokemon. That means the Miltank is hitting for 100 instead of 80, and the Shaymin hits for 50 instead of 30. So with a Muscle Band, that's 70, and that's pretty good just for a DCE for the Shaymin. Now the rest of this deck is all focused around the Maxis and the Archie's engine, around which revolves around bringing our hand size down to 1 card, and that card would be the Archie or the Maxi. After which we can play the Archie or the Maxi to get a stage 2 on the bench. One condition is that the stage 2 must be in our discard pile when we play the Archie or the Maxi, and that's why we run Battle Compressors 4 copies to get the stage 2s in our discard pile, as well as with these Ultra Balls potentially, which allow us to search out our Pokemon and discard some cards at the same time, bring our hand size down to the 1 card that we want. Now, quickly, something about these energies. I decided to go with the fighting energies. We can actually use lots of different kinds of energies in this deck. You could go with fairies, you could go with water, if you don't play Garchomp, that is. But I'm playing Garchomp, and I thought, well, because of that, we will go with fighting energies, obviously. But even if you don't play Garchomp, you could go with fighting energies still, since there's quite some decks out there that run the Scorched Earth Stadium, and then you could make use of that stadium with these fighting energies. So in that way, it is fairly smart to go with fighting energies. If you go with fairy energies, you could make use of someone else's fairy garden stadium. But in this exact list, it wouldn't make sense, again, since the Garchomp does require fighting energies. So it'd be a dead card if we would not play fighting energies. Now onto the rest of the deck. Draw support is 1 Sycamore and 1 Birch in addition to the Shaymins. That's not a lot of draw support, you may think, but you must not forget the Archie and the Maxi also are some kind of draw support, because you get to draw into 5 cards after using this supporter. And then the engine for getting to the Maxi or the Archie consists of 4 Puzzles of Time, 4 Reserved Tickets, and then 4 Trainers Mail. Those cards, as well as the Unowns, allow us to manipulate our hand size and bring it down to 1 card. Especially this Reserved Ticket is very handy in combination with the, pardon me, sorry, I just ate, in a combination with the Unown Farewell, the Farewell Letter ability. If we flip heads on the Reserved Ticket, we get to search our deck for a card, put it on top, and then we can get that card in our hand with Unown's ability. That can come in handy a lot to pull off the Maxi or the Archie. And that's basically it. We still have some techie trainer cards like the Lysandre for targeting some Pokemon. 2 Skyfields, because our bench can become filled up pretty quickly. 2 switches, because it's very likely that we will start off with a Shaymin or an Unown instead of a Miltank. So having that switch is very useful to switch into the Miltank, or potentially the stage 2 that you put onto your bench. 1 Super Rod to get back some energies, since we only run 7 energies in the deck. So getting back some of these basic energies can become pretty necessary near the end of the game. 1 Megaphone to get rid of tools on the opponent's Pokemon, like Fighting Fury Belts, which can be pesky and difficult in combination with EXs, because then the Miltank will need most likely 3 hits to knock out the EX instead of 2. And that's it. I think we have finished the deck analysis. Of course, there's 4 VS Seekers to get to our supporters, but I think that speaks for itself. One final note on the amount of energy: only 7 energy. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, our Pokemon don't require much energy. The Miltank requires only 1 energy attachment. Gallade as well, if you attach a DCE. The only Pokemon that really requires 2 energy is the Garchomp with the Bite Off. We'll never be attacking with the Empoleon, since we don't run water energies. So if Empoleon gets Lysandred out, we'll have to retreat it with a switch, or by attaching a DCE and burning the DCE. But we can get back the DCE with the Turbo Assault from the Garchomp, for example. So lots of different ins and outs. Now the second reason for the low amount of energy is that energies are dead cards in your hands in a Maxis and Archie's engine. So you want to have as little energies in the deck as possible, while still having a viable deck. And I found that 7 energies was optimal in this list after testing. 8, I played with 8 before, but with 8 energies it was actually a lot less consistent, so I'm sticking to 7. If you feel more at ease with 8, go ahead and increase the count, but I had some consistency problems if I increased the amount to 8, so I'm keeping it at 7. And I think it's more than time now to go into the battles, find ourselves an opponent. Leave a like if you enjoy this video, and subscribe to my channel for more silly, competitive and fun deck ideas. And I will see you in the battles. Alright, here we go. We are facing Naru Stories, which is actually on my friends list. So we are playing against someone from my friends list, which was online, and he told me, hey, we can play now. So I said, why not play against Naru Stories? good luck, I will tell him. I think he's playing Trevenant, maybe. He was asking me about Trevenant cards, and we started with a terrible hand. A friend gave him some cards so he can test them. That's very nice of that friend. And we'll have to redraw our hand. We got 3 puzzles of time. That's a lot of puzzles of time. Too many for us. We start off with a Unown. Well, I guess it's something. He needs a Tromborg and 3 Tromborg break. Tromborg is German for Trevenant, if you were wondering. So I guess Narrow Stories is German. And then he can make a Tromborg deck. He's playing Malamar Darkrai, it seems. That's what I'm gonna guess. We are going to be put to sleep immediately. Oh, first of Giant Plants as well as Steven. That's interesting. I wonder what kind of grass Pokemon there are in Narrow Stories deck. We have a pretty good hand. I think we should be able to pull off the turn 1 Archie or the turn 1 Maxi. Let's take a look. This Malamar EX is fighting weak, so we might go with the Gallade actually. That could actually be a nice strategy. Let's take a look. Let's use the Battle Compressor first. Let's take a look at the Trainers Mail first. See if we can get maybe the Maxi from there. And it doesn't seem like it. I'll get the reserve tickets. And then I will battle compress the Gallade, the Maxi, or maybe not the Maxi. We'll battle compress the Gallade and the Garchomp as well as a Empoleon, and we'll hopefully get the Maxi from the reserve ticket here. That's what I'm hoping for. So we will hit the reserve ticket. Yes, we do. We will put the Maxi. Where is the Maxi? On our deck. Then we'll play down the Unown and get the Maxi that way. Look at that. Fantastic stuff. We will then get rid of our hand. We will get rid of the Puzzle of Time and the energy. We'll get a Miltank in play. With the Muscle Bands on the Miltank. And I will go for the Maxi's Hidden Ball Trick. For the Gallade, we can then Premonition with the Gallade, see what else we get from the 5 cards. We get another Miltank, we get an energy for the Miltank that we already have. Take a look at the Trainer's Mail. There's a reserve ticket. We already have a reserve ticket. Might as well get another Muscle Band out of our deck. And we'll take a look at the other Trainer's Mail as well. Possibly could get a Switch. We can get a VS Seeker. Excellent. We could go for another Maxi in the next turn. We will Premonition. Get a DCE with the Premonition. If we can. We cannot. We could get a Switch though. So we'll go with the Switch. And then switch into the Gallade in the next turn. And we'll end our turn here. Excellent first turn, I would say. He says he thinks he will test that deck too. Yes, I'm testing it right now. It's definitely worth a deck worth testing. It's a pretty fun deck to play here. The Empoleon Miltank, and then my own version is the Empoleon Miltank Gallade Garchomp, and I think I'll get the Garchomp out in the next turn. There is the Maximar. Is it the Maximar? No, it is actually the... Yeah, it is Maximar. So we'll promote the Miltank and then we'll use the Switch to switch into the Gallade and take the game that way probably. So we'll switch here. We'll use the reserve ticket. It is heads. Might as well put this on top of our deck here. He says he had a bad start. Yeah. Seems like he didn't get any basics. We had a pretty darn good start here. We'll go with the Garchomp. And there we get the DCE, and that's it. That's game. I would say GG. Wow, look at that! Look at that! simply getting out the Gallade sufficed for us to take the game there. A lot of thinking and tinkering with this deck here. That's what you gotta do. A lot of thinking. What do you want to get out? How do you want to get it out? How can you get it out in the best way? Will you go for the Empoleon or the Gallade? A lot of decisions that need to be made. Not always the easiest deck to play, this one, but definitely a ton of fun when it works out. So I think we shall find ourselves another opponent now, probably in the versus ladder, and I'll see you in the next match. Our next opponent of the day is Overkill with a Night March deck that definitely looks like Night March. So we'll probably go with Miltank, keep promoting Miltanks, and maybe go with the Gallade. The Gallade, that could be pretty good. The Gallade can one-shot the Shaymins pretty easily as well for my opponent. Unless it is maybe a Manectric deck, that's possible. Manectric with Hoopa in it. If it's that case, we'll definitely go with the Gallade. We get to go first. Do I want to go first? I actually don't want to go first. I want to get the first knockout if this is Night March. So I'm actually gonna take a gamble here. Gamble that it is Night March that we are facing. And I'm gonna let my opponent go first. This could backfire really quickly. If it does, so be it. You gotta take a chance sometimes in life. And this is a really great hand. This hand allows us to pull off the Maxi in our first turn. Fantastic hand. I'm glad I went second right now. Unless our hand gets disrupted, but if it is Night March, I don't think so. If it is Manectric, I don't think so either. They usually don't play disruptive cards. There is the Pumpkaboo. Okay, so if you don't see a Fighting Fury Belt, we can knock out the Pumpkaboo in one hit. If we see a Fighting Fury Belt, we'll need a Muscle Band, or we'll need to get the Archie with the Empoleon. Either of the two options. But whatever the case, we have a possibility to knock out the Pumpkaboo, that's for sure. And our opponent discards a Buddy Rescue as well as an Ultra Ball, going to go for a Shaymin. That's my bet. Or maybe a Joltik and then for a Sycamore to get rid of his hands. I'm not sure, we'll have to see. I'm gonna go ahead and say 75% chance of a Shaymin and 25% chance of something else. And it was something else. It is a Feebas. And my gosh, some alarm or something is going off here. I don't know if you can hear it in the microphone, but some alarm is going off. That is a very loud alarm, very annoying as well, very painful to the ears. Or is that a vacuum cleaner? That must be a very loud vacuum cleaner, I don't know. Back to the game here. I hope you cannot hear that, that is indeed very loud. And that was a very bad first turn for my opponent. Didn't get any Night Marches in the discard pile. I don't want to play the Shaymin down really. Yeah, I don't want to really play the Shaymin down. It's an easy target for my opponent. I want to avoid that if I can. I'll go for the Miltank. And then we'll play down the Miltank. We'll play down the Unown. We'll use the Battle Compressor, Battle Compress. Empoleon. Gallade. If it is in our deck, please tell me it is in our deck. It's not in our deck, so we'll go with the Garchomp then. We don't have a choice. We have to go with the Garchomp. The Gallade is prized. I can't believe it. So we'll go with these three. And then we will use the Garchomp, the Maxis Garchomp. Very unfortunate that our Gallade is prized. But hey, what can you do? Alright, we'll go for the knockout then. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. We are looking pretty good. I'd love to get out an Archie in the next turn. We have a pretty good hand to pull off an Archie, but we'll leave it at this for now. Might as well put down this Unown and then go for the knockout. Taking the first prize against Night March. Our gamble paid off for going second. There's Gallade. Yes, we could actually pull off the Maxi with the Gallade in the next turn. We have everything we need to do that. That would be fantastic, just getting that Gallade off. And that would be an easy knockout on the Shaymin. But actually, going for an Empoleon right now would allow us to get a one-hit KO on the Shaymin. If we could get to an Archie. If we top deck an Archie, we'll go with the Empoleon. If not, we'll go with the Maxie's Gallade. We'll have to see what we top deck. Hopefully not another VS Seeker. And I think our opponent's going to go for a Float Stone and, pardon me, a Float Stone and something else. That's what I could see happen, a Float Stone and probably a Night Marcher, or maybe a DCE if my opponent has a Night Marcher in hand. But it does need more Night Marchers in a discard pile. Maybe a Battle Compressor. Battle Compressor to discard some Night Marchers. Yeah, we are looking pretty healthy at this point in the game. I'd say we are at an advantage right now. We have got the first knockout. We are set up. We have something that can knock out the Shaymins in one go. We do need 2 energy attachments for that. But we might be able to pull that off if our opponent cannot knock out this Miltank. And I think we'll see a Sky Return with the Shaymin. My opponent doesn't want to give up the Shaymin. We'll probably promote the Feebas, which I'm fine with. As long as I can get a knockout, I'm okay. There's a Sky Return on the Miltank. What will my opponent promote? I don't see my... Yeah, this is a Feebas indeed. I was gonna say I wouldn't understand otherwise. And I'm gonna try and hit that reserve ticket here. And I failed. Of course I did. Alright then, I'll try and hit a farewell letter. See what I can get from that. A Birch. Oh no, that's not good. Oh no, I messed up the Archie. Now I messed up the Archie indeed. The Maxi. Let's hit another Unown then. And we get a DCE there. Yeah, I really don't want to go for a Shaymin here. That's the problem that I'm having. I'll probably get out another Miltank and then we'll go with a VS Seeker for the Birch. So we'll get out another Miltank. And we'll... I actually don't want to power up that Miltank just yet. I want to get an attachment to the Garchomp if I can. So I'm gonna take a gamble here, go with the Birch, reshuffle that DCE into our deck. And yes, we do flip heads. We should be able to get another energy, which we do not. Are you kidding me? We do not get an energy. We do, however, get the reserve tickets. Could go for an Unown. And let's see, maybe we can... No, we cannot hit the reserve ticket. At least we have something ready for the next turn. This is a pretty good hand to pull off the Maxi in the next turn. I just wanted to get that energy attachment, but I failed to get it. I could go for a Shaymin and get the energy that way, but I don't really want to do that. I'll just take the knockout right now. I don't want to bench any Shaymins if I can. I really want to avoid benching Shaymins. There is an energy that we can start attaching to the Garchomp. And if our opponent benches a Shaymin, we will be able to take a knockout on the Shaymin very easily with the Garchomp. Or in the next turn we could get the Gallade going. If we top deck another energy now, I will be mad. I've been looking for the energies, and if we top deck one now, that would prevent us from getting the Maxi. Because we cannot use this Startling Megaphone, nor can we use the Lysandre. So we need to use our Ultra Ball to get rid of these two. And then attach this energy to the Garchomp, attach this Muscle Band. And then use whatever else we top deck. Hopefully we can use it, and then we can go for VS Seeker for the Maxi. And we should have some more VS Seekers in our deck. What was that? I didn't really see. Teammates going to go for a DCE and something else. Which means we won't be able to power up the Garchomp if we get knocked out. We'll have to attach to the Miltank and trade prizes that way. Or we could actually attach to the Garchomp, but then it might get knocked out, so he can knock out the Pumpkaboo with the Garchomp and then Turbo Assault onto the bench, get a DCE back from our discard pile. It seems like our opponent's now having a bit of better luck getting Night March going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Night Marches in the discard pile, that's for sure. A knockout if we see a DCE and a Dimension Valley. There's another Pumpkaboo. Alright, and I think this will be a knockout. I don't think we'll be able to stay alive. There's the DCE. And now we will see the Dimension Valley indeed. Do we see anything else? A Shaymin. Yes, my opponent put down a Shaymin. Excellent stuff. I'm gonna Lysandre that Shaymin at some point. I really will. Hopefully when we are down to 2 prizes, we've been able to power up this Garchomp. Knockout on the Miltank. That's completely fine by me. We'll just promote another Miltank. We've got Miltanks to spare here. Do we actually have a Super Rod? I think we should have a Super Rod in our deck. And we get a Puzzle of Time, which is fabulous. So right now, I will get rid of these two. Get possibly the last Miltank in our deck, which we did manage to find with the Ultra Ball. We'll power up the Miltank in the active spot. We'll attach the Muscle Band to a Miltank on the bench, because we don't really need a Muscle Band on a Miltank in the active spot at this point. Then we'll take a look at our deck. You can get an Archie, Professor Sycamore, VS Seeker. Okay, doesn't really matter because we'll be shuffling our deck with the Battle Compressor anyways. We will Battle Compress something here. I think we'll Battle Compress the Archies. I don't think we'll need them in these matchups anymore. And then that way we could go for an Archie right now. So do we go for an Archie or do we go for a Maxi for the Gallade? I feel like going for the Maxi, for the Archie. No, for the Maxi. I don't think the Empoleon helps us out in this matchup. We don't need additional damage. So I'll be going for the Maxi for the Gallade. Maxi's Gallade. That way we can guarantee what we top deck to some extent with the Premonition ability. And there it is. We even get a Counter Stadium. Let's take a look. What would we like to get from the top deck? A DCE would be nice. Or maybe actually the VS Seeker to Lysandre out the Shaymin. No, I'll keep the DCE in our deck. I will go with the VS Seeker for the next turn. I will go for the knockout right now with the Powerful Friends, hitting 480, taking the 3rd prize of the game, making it very tough on my opponent to keep up with our prizes, since we are 2 prizes ahead and we don't have any EXs on our bench for my opponent to snipe. And our opponent does have a Shaymin on our bench, which we can use to snipe. If we knock out this Pumpkaboo, I will try and snipe, and that Shaymin, I will try to power up either the Gallade or the Garchomp. Both can knock out the Shaymin in one hit. The Gallade only needs a DCE, and then we need to use a supporter. The Garchomp needs 2 fighting energies. Meanwhile, our opponent is discarding some more Night Marches. Probably some Joltics. Or maybe he's discarding some cards to get back with the Puzzle of Time. I'm not sure if my opponent plays Puzzle of Time. I didn't really pay attention. Let's take a look. Yeah, he does play Puzzle of Time. So that could be a possibility if my opponent has 2 Puzzles of Time in hand or has access to a teammates, which he does have in the discard pile. Then he could VS Seeker for the teammates and then get back whatever he discarded with the Puzzle of Time. And he discarded Hexmaniac, Sycamore, and a Joltik, I think. And there's the teammates going to get 2 puzzles. That's my guess. I should have countered the stadium there. I forgot to counter the stadium. It's kind of silly there. I forgot to counter that stadium. That would have made it harder for my opponent to pull off another attack. But we will promote another Miltank in the next turn. There's no point going with anything else right now. My opponent needs another Night Marcher on the bench, or he will have to promote the Shaymin. Goes for a Fighting Fury Belt, which doesn't matter. We can knock out the Pumpkaboo with this Miltank, which has a Muscle Band. That's why I put a Muscle Band on the Miltank on the bench, in case such a thing would happen. That's exactly the reason why. So we'll promote this Miltank, and I will attach an energy to that Miltank. We get a VS Seeker. That's okay. I will counter the stadium right now. Take a look at our deck. We get another Muscle Band. Do I want to use that Muscle Band? I'll put it on a Miltank actually. It's the last Muscle Band in our deck, and then I'll discard some Shaymins. I don't want to draw into any more Shaymins. That's the last Shaymin in our deck. We'll discard a Battle Compressor, and that's it. I will keep that Super Rod in our deck for sure. That's very good to have. I'd love to draw into it, and we'll go with the Premonition. See if we maybe can get a DCE, which we can. So right now we have access to, in the next turn we have every card that we need to pull off the game. We have VS Seeker to go for a Lysandre, which is in our discard pile. We will top deck a DCE, which we can attach to the Gallade. We can use the Lysandre on the Shaymin, and then we'll hit with the sensitive blade for 130, which is a knockout on the Shaymin, and it's 130 because we used the supporter in our turn. So here's the knockout on the Pumpkaboo. If our opponent doesn't reshuffle our hands, we have the game here. And I don't think we will see a reshuffle, since Night March doesn't typically play Judge. So I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say it's game. Unless our Garchomp gets Lysandred and my opponent does not attack, or if he Lysanders a Miltank and does not attack, then we cannot pull off the win, since the Garchomp needs 2 energies to knock out the Shaymin, and this Miltank cannot knock out the Shaymin in one hit at this point, so we'd have to go for a knockout on the Jolting then. But I don't think my opponent will do that. Yeah, I'm thinking here, I'm trying to think of scenarios where we might lose the game here, and where we where it might turn against us, but I really can't think of anything. I really cannot. And if our opponent uses that teammates, then for sure it's game, since he cannot reshuffle our hand then anymore with a Judge. If our opponent even plays a Judge, which I don't think so, the chances of that are very low, like 5% maybe, or even less. I think our opponent is looking for a DCE and maybe another Night Marcher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should have some more Joltics in his deck for sure, unless they are prized. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit relieved right now. I was tensed up because Night March is always such a tense matchup. You've got to stay on your tiptoes, stay ahead of the game, think carefully about what you do, and I'm very glad we didn't need to play down any Shaymins. I'm glad I was able to avoid that. And it seems like my opponent is going to try to go for a Milotic at some point, which isn't really necessary, or is not going to be necessary, because this is going to be the last turn for my opponent. He just doesn't know it yet, but he will realize soon enough. Will he allow us to take that last hit though? I wonder indeed. And there is the Night March, and we will promote the Gallade. It is time to do what needs to be done to close out the game. There we go. We should top deck the DCE if everything goes according to plan, and it does. There it is. That's a win. Perfect match against Night March, if you would ask me. My goodness, I am very happy here. What a fun match this was. 110, just enough because of the resistance that the Shaymin had. I actually kind of forgot about that, but didn't really need to worry about it because we were hitting for 130 anyways, and resistance never decreases more than 20 currently in the game. It might have been different before. The resistance might have been -30, I think, at some point. But nowadays it's -20, so we didn't really need to worry about that. Let's take a look at the stats. 490 damage versus 440 for my opponent. Miltank MVP, yes! Hooray! Miltank MVP against Joltik. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought? Oh my goodness. On that positive and joyous note, I will end today's episode. I think there's no better way to close off an episode than by defeating Night March with a deck that you just created. So that's going to be it. Leave a like if you enjoyed the defeat of Night March, and subscribe to my channel for more competitive, silly and fun deck ideas. I hope you have a truly Karptastic day, and I'll be seeing you next time.
Karp, 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 Karp.